in terms of providing some financial documents periodically. So, does anyone else have anything from the public? Yeah, Rich, you want to just come
Not
up?
to the remainder of the money.
I'm
It was
sorry.
budgeted 41.5, correct?
There's 41.5 in the budget, that's right. Yeah, and I believe you guys had conversations about what was needed for the difference.
Yes.
$30,000 is what was determined, so.
Well, I think whatever the town can allot to the EMS squad, they should do. They do an outstanding job, and they have for years. And I'm sure their call volume is up compared to what it was.
Yeah, we were
They should
talking,
be commended for doing that job. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
so this is for 2021, obviously for 2022, that's what we're looking to see exactly what that differential would be and try to get that set up. And that'll probably be something that'll be determined when the supervisor-elect Mark takes the helm in January. So we'll at least get that started so we can have that documentation. Good. Does the board have anything else on this?
No, just to clarify, when looking at the budget, I think it's important to note that up through October 31st of this year, which is the financials that we've received, they have had a net loss of $109,000 and some change, just under $110,000 net loss, which they have been funding through the course of the year with excess with money that they came into 2021 with, which was, I think, a little over $200,000. They presently have about $130,000 in their bank account, I guess it's for reserve funds, if you will. And this money that the town is putting forth is to cover anticipated losses for the month of November and December, which we don't have the financials for, but we assume they're going to be about the same as October's, which was $11,000 net loss. And a lot of that is due to a large increase in payroll as opposed to volunteer work. So that's why we're trying to cover these losses for the rest of this year. And we will be working with Renee and Patty going forward to determine what can be done to try to minimize some of those losses going through 2022. To either increase revenue, see if there's a place to cut costs, because I think anybody realizes that losing $110,000, $120,000 annually is something that we need to address. Just for the EMS squad as a whole, we want to see them be healthy, financially stable, and if the town needs to further support them, then we need to know that going in. So that's why we're doing this kind of a deep dive into their budget, if you will. So that's where we're at, and this money that we've allocated for this year is more than sufficient to allow them to cover their expenses through the end of the year and into the first part of January, until such time as we can determine what they're going to require for 2022. So I just wanted to be clear on those financials that's out there. So.
Anyone else have anything on this before we're going to table this one, obviously, because we can't pass this until the end of the month annual meeting. No? Okay. Table that one, and then also opening the 2022 Thai EMS contract, like we said, that's still being worked on in terms of trying to get those numbers from what we think is the appropriate amount that they would need for next year. So we'll leave that one open.
To the next meeting.
You have to actually pass a resolution to table it to a certain date.
We just leave it open though.
You can just leave it
Yeah,
open.
sorry, that's not, I
Not
meant,
table it.
that's what I meant,
Okay.
leave it open. Because the 2021 has to be settled by the end of the month.
So you're just gonna leave it open?
Yeah, the other one as well. So,
Well, did you officially open the other one?
I just did, but we can. We'll officially open the 2022 Thai AMS contract and leave it open through discussions at the end of the month as well as into January if needed.
So there's any discussion for it right now?
Does anyone have anything to offer for the 2022 Thai EMS budget? I know we were talking about trying to get the update on the revenues and see how that matches with the expenditures, just to really figure out what that cap differential is. If there's nothing nothing else, then we'll move on. Next up is a presentation. We have Steve Boyce, the president of the Black Watch Library Board, here with us today, and he's going to give. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Sit in the chair, not on the table.
No. I stand up, I'll start moving around and looking for a chalkboard. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about the library. And I want to talk about 6 Carnegie Place, which is the property that is behind the library and is currently for sale. And in July, to take you back a little bit, in July, right after we learned that the property was for sale, we wrote a letter to the board asking you to acquire 6 Carnegie Place for library use. And the reason we did that is that it would help us meet our mission as a community public library. And that mission is to inspire lifelong learning. We want to get kids loving reading and loving to learn and support that throughout the rest of their lives. Our mission is to advance knowledge by providing free and open access to materials and information. This is really the core of the library, that everyone in the community has the opportunity to use the resources of the library and get those books. It's really a way to help the community save money and to strengthen our community by promoting an informed citizenship and participation in society. And more communities and organizers are seeing that libraries are agencies for community improvement. They are resources, and they're used not just as a storage place for books, but as a vibrant way to make a community better. And that's our mission. And our vision for the property, 6 Carnegie, if we had access to that property, here's how we connect with our mission. One, we would look at creating a story walk for children. And this is where kids go from one station to another. There's a story there for them, and oftentimes there's something for them to do. Kids love them, as do the rest of their family. But we could use that area to create a story walk for children. We would use the area to expand the outside reading area, use area for our patrons. Right now, outside, we have some area outside the library, but if folks just want to go out and sit in a pleasant area, read a book, read the newspaper, check their computers, that's limited now. We could expand that, and I think that's very important with these things. With COVID, social distancing is going to be with us for quite a while. And by having access to that property, we could allow our patrons to spread out and have a much more enjoyable experience in the library. And also, we would look at, there are 2 buildings on that property right now. The larger building, we would look at creating maker spaces in that building. What is a maker space? Well, it's an area set aside with equipment and other resources where people can come and create. They're very popular, and libraries are often the centers for these maker spaces, but it could be things like an area set aside with craft materials. So if families wanted to come in and make Christmas decorations or something, they would be able to do that. It could be tech rooms where you have things like 3D printers and things where people want to create that, or computers or that kind of thing. It could be fabrication labs where people could come in and make something, whether it's woodworking or shop or whatever. And some areas have been used, maker spaces, for art and music studios. And even in some areas, maker spaces have been used to create new businesses. This is the place where you generate new business. So we think there's a potential there. We could do that. Other libraries are doing it, and we would certainly look into that. And we would take a property and make it much more inviting access to the Lachute Trail. If you imagine we can clear that, do landscaping, possibly taking down the smaller building. We would open that up and have just a great place where people could access the trail. The Lachute Trail is becoming more and more popular. We're starting to see walking tours there. We're starting to see much more use, and this would be a good place there. And I also want to point out at this point, important that whatever we do with this property, we've talked to our neighbors, the Knights of Columbus and Madden's Pub, and they support what our plan, our vision, and we also want to make sure that they would have access to the rear portions of their buildings. So we're not trying to cut off neighbors or anything like that. So, I think that would be part of the plan. I'm not going to sing our praises of the library. The library is a strong, vibrant part of this community. Heather and her team of staff and volunteers do a great job right now, and we feel confident that what we say we can do, and that's why what we really need is that property. Now, what's happened since July is one, we used $1,700 from our special projects fund to have the property appraised. And so we now know the value of the property. Very thorough appraisal has been done. And we have had an anonymous donor come forward and offering to make a substantial contribution to help the town to help the town acquire the property for library use. And of course, anonymous donor, I can't say who that is, but we have a person who said that they will help with a very substantial contribution, and we have every reason to trust that would happen. And we have had discussions with several community groups and downtown merchants explaining what we'd like to do, and they have been very supportive of the plans and of the vision. So, what would we like the board to do is to inform the agent that's representing the seller of the property of the town's interest in acquiring the property. And I mean, I know that's easy to say, but there are a whole lot of legal steps that are necessary, and that's what we'd ask, I think, needs to be taken care of. And we feel that, we understand the acquisition of the property is not guaranteed, but I think the lack of action at this time will result in the loss of the opportunity to get that property and to make the community a stronger, more vibrant Ticonderoga. And that's why again, a lot of moving parts, but we feel that if we don't act now, I'm concerned that if we don't act now, someone will come in to purchase that area, and we'll lose really a great opportunity that we may never see again.
What's the value of the property?
I would, can't,
What's it assessed for? So
for the assessment, I don't,
I don't know what this is.
yeah. And the reason I don't want to give publicly the value of the property is that if we enter into any kind of negotiation with the seller,
public knowledge, the assessment is,
Yeah, the assessment, yes.
And that's just gives somebody something to work with, because I don't know enough about it, I'm just asking as a taxpayer.
Okay, no,
I believe the taxes paid on that property are about $1,200 a year. That tells you anything?
Is that what you're asking? You're asking the assessment, correct?
you're asking for the assessed value.
It's
It's
listed at 69.9. It's what the owner has got it listed.
Okay.
Whether that's the actual value or not, it's hard to tell, but that's what it's listed for.
And I don't know if there are any other questions?
How big a parcel is that? Do we know in acreage? Is it like an acre, or half an acre, or quarter of an acre? Do we know?
I think a half an acre.
Okay.
Again, I have to go back to our,
And is there any kind of a budget at this point to convert the buildings into what you're talking about? Do we have any idea what that cost would be?
I wish we had specific costs. I mean, we're not talking new construction, we're talking about renovation. We're talking about possible demolition of the smaller buildings. And then what goes in will be determined by, with the makerspace, we certainly would want community input about what does the community want. And again, we have, there are many grant opportunities right now available for actions that help strengthen the economy. And I know you know that, but I can think of two nonprofit foundations right now that are looking at helping the activities, supporting activities that help the year-round, the lives of the year-round residents of the community.
The only other question, and you may not have an answer to that yet, as I've thought about through, but if you're having these story trails, I guess, and this maker building, would you anticipate that that would require any additional staffing from the library that would increase their budget, annual budget going forward?
It could, but it also could be covered by volunteers. I mean, right now we have, there are volunteers. The support, community support of the library is fantastic. And we have part of we keep staff costs down because we have volunteers. And I think that would look at it. But again, no,
I'm just curious as to
Yeah.
know, because obviously there's the initial cost to enter into it, and then obviously there's additional costs. Just want to get a feel how much of an annual increase in your budget might take place going forward, so.
Tom, I wish I had that information, but I wish we had all the time to put all those pieces together, but we're also, I think, under the gun that if we don't take some kind of action, if we don't show some kind of interest, we'll lose the opportunity to get that. And I think it's just too big a chance.
Yeah, understood. So I guess what I would ask is that, assuming we entered into negotiations, that during those negotiations and going forward, that some of those questions were kind of looked at in a little more detail before we actually decided to sign, right? You can enter negotiations without actually having to write a check.
Right.
During that period of time, it'd be nice to have an idea of, we think that our annual budget would increase by this, or not, and this is kind of what we're gonna cost after you purchase the building to do whatever renovations and landscaping and stuff, so that we kind of know what we'd have to be looking for in increased budgets going forward.
Makes all the sense in the world to me, and I think that's why it's important. We cannot go out to donors or grantors saying, maybe the library will have use of this property.
Right.
Once that first step is taken, then we can.
Sure.
And, I mean, I don't want to, when we expanded the library, that was done without having to ask for public community money. That was all done through grants and state money and individual donations. And I think that, so again, when we start reaching out, I think we can keep those costs low. Are there going to be increased costs? Yeah, there are.
Sure.
I
It would just be nice to have a ballpark, you know, just kind of have an idea going forward so that we're not blindsided down the road.
No, you're not, yeah. I live here too. Any other, fair question. Any other questions?
Sounds
Okay.
sounds like a good investment in the community, or certainly at this time, like you mentioned, with COVID. And it's not really adding any new structures, it's really mostly outdoor improvements. The story walk, which I know you guys have been talking about for a while, anyway. The outdoor reading room, and then, you know, the makerspace, I think that's also something that was mentioned, I think, at the Heritage Museum as well, right? Some of those kind of, maybe I'm just mixing it up, no?
We're, Heritage Museum, we've been, we started having walking tours of Lachute, and that's, I mean, that area is finally starting to work. Well, if you don't have anything else, I would like to invite everyone here that on Saturday, this coming Saturday from 1 to 3, we are holding kind of a reception to honor John McDonald, who for his 46 years as president of the Black Watch Memorial Library Board. 46 years, and we stop by, say hi.
When is that, Steve?
That's this coming Saturday, it'll be the reception 1 to 3.
At the library.
At the library. I think a testimony to the kind of support. I'm not sure how long he's been on the board, but he's been president for 46 years. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Some of those lines.
I have, just so you, I have at the end of the
Yeah,
meeting
sure.
for the town board to go into an executive, because this would be something to discuss in terms of purchasing of property, as you
Okay.
described. And then I have a resolution set up, so if that's the board's decision, then we can pass that at that
All
time,
right.
so.
But you need us for that?
You don't need to, you don't, I just want to let you know that I have that, we have that teed up just in case we can have a conversation.
Again, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Thank you for the support that the town has already given to the library.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Okay, we want to open remarks. County recently passed a declaration for a state of emergency yesterday. There are over 3,300 confirmed cases of COVID in the county, and we are listed at a high transmission, in the high transmission category. We're actually one of the highest vaccinated counties if not the highest vaccinated county in the state. But the concern is that the rates are high, and higher actually than what they were last year. And the influx of patients in the hospitals, they're just concerned that there could be a potential for not being able to provide the appropriate care. So the county has entered into a declaration for that very purpose. It'll go for 30 days. And then we had some conversations, Tanya and I did, regarding whether we would close the town hall as we had last year. We're coming to the end of the year, so January will begin tax season, which is one of the busiest times, not only tax season, but also water sewer rate collections. And these Delta variant and the Omicron variant, which they still don't have full scientific understanding of. There's just a lot of concern about the easy spread of COVID, especially for those who are vaccinated. So I think we'll be making a decision probably with Mark as well as we come into the next year as to how the town wants to handle that. But I just wanted people to be aware. And if you know anyone who's on the fence, I know there's talking with the Department of Health. There are still some people who are getting vaccinated now, and they've said that they didn't know that vaccinations were available or other things like that. I know it's been pretty widespread communicated, but if you happen to know anyone, please be mentioned, because that is definitely a precaution, as well as wearing these masks and just social distancing. So, what else do I have? Attended the Adirondack Association's Towns and Villages meeting this past week. A lot of discussion on broadband, a lot of funding coming from the federal government for that, and the county has, actually the regional area, a number of counties have pulled together to put about 3,000 connections in our region between Essex, Clinton, Washington, Warren, and Hamilton counties as part of this grant that could provide service to our constituents. But there are still some barriers that the providers are reluctant to build out. So there's quite a coalition that's been forming in the North Country, across the state, across the nation, and ultimately there's really a need for more of a comprehensive solution between the data as far as who has broadband, who doesn't, providers, and the costs associated with building out, as well as local, county, state, and federal governments, to develop a successful build-out. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. There's a survey that's going around. We'll be putting it on our website just to try to gather more information for our area. The more data that can be collected to kind of give indication as to what our region is experiencing, helps try to figure out where those monies can be pulled, how those providers can work with the local county and state governments to get that money rolled out and to hopefully continue to expedite broadband installation throughout the region, throughout the state. I think that's all I have right now. So there's no Board of Health report. So at this time, I would open it up to the floor for public comment before we jump into our committee. Yeah, Heath, go ahead.
Just to refresh my memory, 6 Carnegie Place, that is the 2 buildings directly behind the library, correct?
Yes.
All right. I've known Steve for a very long time, so he's either going to be really shocked or pleasantly surprised at this. But I'm going to suggest humbly that you give a lot of thought to what he said tonight and ultimately go along with it. I think there has been a very good faith effort in an attempt to commercialize that property. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. I've been at that property for unrelated things, and it's a solid property, and anytime you can expand education, it helps the community 5 and 10-fold. It really does. And I can't see any really better use for that property than to incorporate it into the library and to expand education opportunities for the town. It's really, from my point of view, a really simple equation with a really simple answer. So I hope you give it a lot of thought and in the end go along with it, because I think it's a really good idea.
Thank you.
You always were one of my favorite students.
How much did you pay him for that?
Might have been a old homework assignment, I'm not sure, but thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, Don, go ahead.
Donna Watton with Play Alliance. I'd also like to offer my support for that project as well. I don't think there's anything, thank you for your work. I don't think there's hardly anything that we could consider to do with that property downtown that would not fulfill the town's vision of adding to the appeal of our downtown, the usefulness for residents, the appeal for visitors, the ultimate goal of connecting the backside of Montcalm Street and the river walk with more activity downtown. It just seems like a complete win. The other thing is I've been exposed to a number of maker spaces in other towns that are really flourishing, and they can serve as really great little incubators for small businesses and other really interesting contributions to the art community and kids' activities and things like that that are really, really valuable and work really well in the town this side of ours. Full support from Play Alliance.
Anyone else have anything? Yeah, great.
I just wanted to give an update and a thanks to the board. We had a boy in my Boy Scout troop whose idea was to do something with basketball. And I think at first I thought he bit off a lot more than he could chew. He raised over $20,000. It was matched by a very, very generous donor who's also a basketball fan from our area. In that account, when he was finished with this illustriously awesome project, he ended up with $3,500 extra dollars. So last week he called me and he said, we don't really have enough money to build the fencing that we want to build, and we really can't do it till spring. And Mr. Woods is going to take a look at some subsequent cost reductions. We may have a donor coming forward to replace and pay for that entire basketball fencing project, which would be upwards of another $6,000. So he's keeping $1,200 in the account. He also just purchased $1,330 worth of basketballs for area community youth kids. So when they come to the grand opening in March, they'll be able to give every kid who wants one a basketball. Like, it's really cool to see our community kids who weren't able to do anything for a very long time. There's still kids playing on that court in December. So it's like, whoa, that's pretty interesting. He's going to follow that up with you guys with a report when he comes home from prep school, since he really can't. He's not finding it easy to leave and come back because of the quarantining issues. But he will be back home in December, and he'll go ahead and give a report again to Mr. Woods to let him know exactly where that's going.
And we've already got probably 90% of the material. Sal
Fantastic.
had all the
Yeah,
fencing
Sal
and
was
the
working
posts.
with him. Yep.
And him and I've gone around and we do have to buy some ties
Right.
and some
That's
posts.
awesome.
On all we need to do is get a cost on the labor.
Okay, and we have another boy who is going to present again. He's a 14-year-old who also has a pretty good recreational idea for the town rec committee. I know there's a playground that's being reinstated, and I know when my boys were here about a year ago, they heard about that playground and they said, oh, we want to help with that. So there is another boy that's got another idea, and I told him to get in touch with Mrs. Cooper. So they're really like pulling in on the community as a whole, and they think that vision, now that they can see the direct results. So thank you guys for helping with that, because that's a huge issue.
He'll be coming to present, right, in
He
March.
will.
I know his brother gave a presentation to the board when he did his project, so.
Exactly. So his project is now complete.
Yeah,
He will present to the Eagle Board in January.
okay.
And his project is one of 5 nationwide that's being judged in a area scholarship project. The other 2 are coronavirus enoculation clinic, and then there's also one that worked with area community kids for a children's program. So he's one of the 5 that are in the run for a national award. Pretty cool.
Could we have the ribbon cutting in March?
In
also,
March,
site plan? Okay.
right, exactly. Yep.
Okay, anyone else from the community?
Well, this has been great.
Okay, we'll move over to committee reports, and our town engineer, Greg Swart, was not, I told him he did not need to come down today, but he is on go-to meeting. He has a couple of items on our list here, and he gave me some notes for which I could speak to give a bit of an update, and then we can go ahead and work through some of these resolutions. So, first is he provided a bit of a narrative on where we are with regards to the Portage project. I'll just read it for you. It says the work to complete paving will be completed in the spring. The binder course and the lower course has been completed, and the final top course will be completed in the spring, along with the sidewalks and the final restoration. Providing the final top course in the spring will produce a better long-term result, as during the winter season, any settling that might occur will and can be corrected. The contractor prepped the road for winter plowing and driveway access by providing ramps around manholes and in the driveways. I know I took a walk with Greg and Tom and Mitch from the highway department just to assure ourselves that we were good for as good as we could be for the winter season. Anyone who's driven up the Portage will know that there's manhole covers that are still about an inch, inch and a half high, and there's the ramps will most likely take a bit of a beating over the winter, but the guys are very mindful of the fact that they need to be conscientious when they're plowing their road, and probably will be depositing more salt, is what Mitch had described, just to make sure that the snow doesn't become an issue. The homeowners are cautioned that since sidewalks have not yet been complete, the town may not be able to complete the plowing on the sidewalks or former sidewalk areas. So homeowners should take the responsibility for this maintenance for this season. Residents and drivers on the portage should also be aware that snow plowing will require more careful operations than typical due to the raised manhole covers, and the roadway may not be cleared during all storms as well, or as quickly as normal. The town asks for everyone's patience for a bit longer, as the project is expected to restart as soon as the weather gets good in the spring, and should be completed hopefully not too long after that. So now we'll, and I just would comment on this, that this was originally supposed to be completed at the end of this year, and that was the intent. COVID hit, and we had to wait about 3 months as we were making sure that we weren't going to be missing out on the $5 million that the town was allotted to do the entirety of the road. So part of this has to do with just the delay and the grant fundings that were awarded to the town, just to make sure we were starting a project without having reasonable grant funds. Otherwise, we would have had to, if those funds didn't come through, we would have had to take that out in a loan. So that's why the delay. It's not that, it's really mostly because of the funding due to COVID. Okay, there's a couple amendments that we have. We can just go through, because most of the update for water sewer has to do with current projects and just a couple other ancillary things within town. So the first resolution is a resolution to increase 89 Park Avenue, the property of Danielle Johnson, to 1 full EDU. I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. The next resolution is to increase the town of Putnam's bill, 1 full sewer charge and 2 full O&M charges. And that would bring the updated count to 101 for sewer charges and 101 for O&M charges.
I'll move it.
Second.
And I would just comment that, this is a little, except for those who may not know, Black Point Road is split between Ty, about 140 some odd users, and Putnam, which is the other 100 and so users. So the town bills Putnam, Putnam collects and then sends it back to the town. But like every other property on that road, when there's changes that are done based on whatever might be vacant property construction, we have to have resolutions come before to make those adjustments. So all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? So carried. Okay, so now on to a few of the resolutions for the amendments. And Greg, I don't know if you want to jump in if you have any questions of her. So let's see the order. So the first one has to do with amendment number 1. And this is for the new Eagle Lake Chilson project. We've already put forth some monies from the ARPA funding, but in order to stay on task for the schedule, as far as providing I guess 2022 is the start date for the design, and 2023 is the completion date. There's some additional work that needs to get going now sooner than later. So this particular amendment to the AES contract 4989 is for services related to additional planning and preliminary design, as well as additional sub-consultant underground utility locating on the proposed Chilson Eagle Lake District in an amount not to exceed $52,225, with monies to come from the ARPA funds, pending review and approval by our town attorney. And Greg, I don't know.
I have a question. Can I ask a question on this or no?
Just hold on a second. Yeah, you can hear you. I got you on full. Go ahead if you want to share anything else that you might have.
So we had some discussion at the committee meeting and around that of kind of the next steps to keep taking on Chilson Eagle Lake. About half the money is for sub-consultants to do the line locating, in addition to the survey to find and locate the existing water line on the survey map for all the easements and replacement work that will come from that. And the other part is to keep the project moving and do the preliminary work on part of the list of easements, permitting, tank location, those sorts of things. contract had some money for starting the project up and doing the grant applications. I'm assuming there were some other grant applications to do over the winter. My goal was to try to keep the project moving in small increments so that we can stay on schedule without going too far in case things change down the road. So if we keep moving like this over the winter, this goes through probably first quarter next year, we gotta keep on schedule. If we don't do it, then, and things change, or we need to ramp this back up again later in the year, it's gonna be hard to meet the schedules that are in the order, because there's quite a bit of work to do and not a lot of time. But as the project is still working through the exact scope of work and things, I don't want to go too far, spend too much money ahead of it. So that was kind of my logic. I was trying to find the balance of keeping it moving without going too far for now. So that's it. That's how you guys want to go. It works for me. If you guys want something different, just let me know. But that was kind of my logic.
Does the board have any questions? Joyce, you have any questions? Mike, what's your?
Yeah, I do. How much money has AES received for the water for Chilton Fire District project through the years? How many hundreds of thousands of dollars has been spent on that project, and we have no results yet? Nothing.
I don't know how
And
that.
I think it's about time that people stepped up to the plate and said, this is what we're gonna do. Whether it's the taxpayers telling you what they're gonna want done, or you guys figuring it out, that's affordable. I don't see, I'm not blaming you guys that are here, it's been going on for years. And I think it's about time that something happens.
Well, something's going to happen because the federal government is involved now and we have to follow their mandate.
Something's
So-
gonna happen, and when?
We're on a timeline, that's why these next, we already have a map planning report.
I mean, you're just spending good money all after bad, because you haven't got anything solved.
Well, no, we have a plan now, and we're marching to those orders of the map planning report. We anticipate about $250,000 for preliminary design that has to be met by the following year. So this is all in process of that. We talked about utilizing some of the line, that's why he's doing this,
Okay.
that's why they're doing this underground survey to
I'll
assess.
let you run with it for a while.
What's that?
I'll let you run with it for a while, till we figure out what we're gonna be when we grow up.
Well, like you said, this didn't happen in the last, it goes back long, that's right. I mean, I know you've been to some of those meetings, you know all the comments that come out, so, but here we are in
Of course, I
2025.
am concerned about the fire district,
Yeah,
state mandate that you supply water to those hydrants. You have no choice. So just remember that portion of it too.
okay. You got a first and
Thank you.
second? Thanks, Mike. No, okay. I'll move it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Okay, the next one is a resolution to approve Amendment 9 of the AES contract, project number 4535, for additional post-construction and RPR services in the water system master contract in the amount of $36,151.84. And this is with regards to additional work that's being done on Veterans Road. We had some additional money left over that was 0% loan, and we were trying to continue to utilize that zero interest loan money on the continuation of the water line on Veterans.
And a few other warranty items that popped up over the last year or so on the main water project. And this closes us out. This is everything on the project. We'll be closing everything out in the next couple of months.
That's right. So, yeah, we had some air handle and noise issues. They relocated at the back of the building. There was some well pressure issues. We corrected those as well, and some other minor repairs. So the good thing is this will close out and then it can go to long-term financing. Does the board have any questions on this one? Okay.
That's it for Veterans Road.
This additional one is for Veterans Road and also handling those noise and plumbing issues. You want to move it? Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. And then the last amendment is number 5 for the AES contract, project number 4394. This is the for services related to final design, additional construction, and RPR, or stream separation and clean water main project on the Portage in the amount of $847,612.
No.
That's the wrong, yeah, I'm sorry, I took the prior amendment.
Yeah, they can order on that much.
Scratch that out, it's 285, 91055. It's hard to write these resolutions without going back and using the previous language, so I apologize I didn't update that. Yeah, so Greg's got it broken down into 3 different lump sums. So you get $31,000 for additional design fees for stormwater connections that were found on Battery Street and that were unknown during the design phase, and as well as for the PRV that has to be installed, the design of the PRV that has to be installed on Champlain, which has resulted in, without it, has resulted in a number of breaks on subsequent neighboring roads. There are also some other redesign items. So that's what that portion went to. Then you had $113,000 and change that went to the additional contract charges. You have here for 56 weeks. Stemming over 26 additional weeks of construction in 21 and 18 weeks into 22, and another 12 and a half weeks, 12 weeks during the winter for a final closeout after construction is completed in 22. So some additional money just because the project got delayed in being completed this year and has to be adjusted for next year. And coinciding with that is another $153,000 for the project representative services. Part of it is for this year and part of it is for next year. So those are just, these monies are all kind of built into the total project. The project is still within the $20.5 million budget, if I'm not mistaken, Greg. So this is a resolution to make those additional, for those additional services related to those items. Did you have anything else on this?
No, I covered it. I mean, the majority of the cost is the construction service. We only have about 56 weeks in our contract, and I ran out this summer. I was planning on, the schedule was supposed to be done this year, but just between the time frames and things, it just ended up going longer. And I was hoping to just deal with it all at once now rather than piecemeal, but that should be, that gets us through the projected end of the project next year.
Okay. Did you get that updated amount? 285, 910, 55? Okay.
The PRG in?
No, it was a PRV delivered yet?
No, it'll be here by the end of the year. So it'll be in
They
the
had
first
a couple
January.
water breaks. They had 3 water breaks last week.
Yeah, my neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going in this winter, it'll go in even though it'll be January.
Okay. All right, so I'll move that one.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you, everybody, appreciate it.
Did you have anything else, Greg?
The only thing I forgot to tell you about is Veterans Road is basically done. I think the pipe is in and tested, there's the beetles that clean up and they'll be out. So that does wrap up the overall water project. That's the last piece, so I
Good.
think we'll start pulling out.
Excellent.
So I'll have I believe it ended up coming in a little bit under budget, probably about $10,000 in the budget.
Very good.
I think everything else, everything I said, I gave, there's a list of a few other things over, but nothing major tonight, so that's kind of a good thing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
So I'll think you guys get anything else from me?
You guys have any other questions for Greg? I think we're good, thank you.
Thanks, have a good night.
You too. And then the last item is to set a public hearing on January 13th of next year for an amendment to the Baldwin Water and Sewer Districts to include a new property hookup.
At 6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock, thank you.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor? We will not be having a meeting this month, and it'll resume in January. So we'll move on to buildings and grounds, parks and recs, and library. Who wants to take that? You have anything?
I'll be quick. We've had just some major hot water heater at the police department. We had to replace that, we got to replace the door, that got kicked in. We had problems with the furnace at the police department and the library, and the armory, we replaced all of the tile. And we've got some company over in Williston to come do the blinds for the 10 windows. They're 5 foot by 126 inches, and they're putting them up. They're going to be chain operated, ball proof, for around 4,000.
Are they going outside the cage or
Yeah.
outside the cage? What happens, if they,
Well, I told him, he said he's coming over. They're busy right now, he's coming over at the end of the month. And look, he's assuming he's gonna put a rod on the outside and then they'll get down over it.
I know the pickleballers, though, they put that stuff right there to cover the side, the legs sticking from the side. Is there a means to?
I don't know, when he's coming over and you
Take a look at it.
Yeah, I went up and took a video of the whole thing, sent individual pictures of each window.
Yeah.
So he could give us a rough ballpark rather than runway over here.
No, that's good.
So, and he said that price should be good with what I sent him, so.
You might want to just coordinate with them to make sure it meets their satisfaction, because
On the sides, yeah.
on the sides, because I know that they were,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a good point, yeah.
I think that opens up the gymnasium to other uses too. I can see where we could have films and things like that there too. So I think it's a good expense.
What's the, not to get into detail, is it material like a cloth? Is it a
No, it's a fiber, like,
fiber?
he said, because I said,
Clean it?
I told him it's in a gym, you know, I said, and he said it's ball proof. I said basketball, pickleball, you know, whatever.
Okay.
And he said yes, so
I'm just thinking of cleaning
I
wise.
can have him
Yeah.
bring a sample when he comes.
Okay.
What? No, to look at it.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Joyce.
You didn't mention about the request for the opener for the outbuilding bay,
The one?
for weights and measures, the decision of the committee for that. There was a request to put in an automatic door opener for that one bay,
Oh,
and the committee was not in
Oh,
support
no.
of that at this point,
Yeah.
because the rent we're getting for that bay is probably the cost of the opener.
no, that's ridiculous. That guy's young, he can operate that chain.
We spent our Parks and Rec meeting talking a lot about winter activities in our parks. And one of the things that got a lot of attention is our skating rink. I'm trying to get a face here. We had problems last year maintaining the rink. We have blacktop there, and it makes it hard to keep good ice. And somebody was plowing it with a pickup, and that didn't help either. We talked about different locations for the ice rink, and feel that wherever the ice rink is, that there should be a liner. But there's still, the committee, the municipal building committee is still looking for a potential home for the police department, so moving the ice rink is a little ahead of the game here, so we'll be talking about it next year. We do feel we need to have a use policy, because if there's somebody there playing hockey and somebody wants to go skating, it's not going to work, so we need to come up with some kind of time frame and a schedule. We did also have a representative from the Adirondack Trail Raiders riders at the meeting, and they were talking about their plans for this year. And I noticed since then that there's a lot of posts up and the signs are up already, so they have been busy getting their trails marked. They tell us there's about currently 100 members, and we did ask them to mark the trail in Bicentennial Park. It was not marked last year. We had a lot of people snowmobiling all over the place, so hopefully if it's marked, they'll stay within the trail. They also will try to deal with rogue riders if they are going outside the trail. They also have offered to groom the trail in Recreation Park, which is where the ball fields are. And the idea is to have a trail next to the walking trail, which will will be plowed. If they groom it, we could have snowshoeing and also cross-country skiing going on. And I understand that they hope to expand their trails all the way to the country club, so that's going to make an extensive trail there. And if you want to know where their trails are, it's available on the town website. They also said they could help, it would help if they had some financial help from the town. However, when they came to us, our budget is already set for 2022, so hopefully they will make a request next year so that we can help them out a little bit financially. What else? There's a request to improve the dog stations, and you know what I mean, it's where the bags are for the doggies. They're rusty and need to be replaced, and they also need to be stocked with plastic bags, so that will be taken care of in the springtime. And bags can be deposited in the existing trash cans that are along the trail. And I understand there's currently no stations at the Trestle Bridge or the Pocket Park, so those will be added to the list. I'm not going to talk about the Eagle Scout project because Karina's already done a good job of talking about it before this. I do want to brag a little bit about the downtown Christmas decorations. In addition to the hard work that Jim Hawley has done with his team, Mark's one of them, they've put in the lights across the main street and the garland. And to keep up with that, we've done a lot of replacement on town property. Last year, we replaced the light strings in the park. And we also purchased a star for the top of the tree, and I think it looks very nice. And this year, we've purchased lighted garland for the front of the building here, the light poles. And the big thing was we purchased 2,000 feet of bulk wire and 4,000 bulbs to go on our Christmas tree. And if you saw it when you came in, it really looks great. And one of the reasons it really looks great is because of this woman over here, because she took all 4,000 bulbs and the strings and one weekend and put them all in. As you can see, can you imagine? I'm glad I wasn't there actually. But thank you so much, Tanya. And also thank you to the town crew because that was quite an endeavor to get all that wire up on the tree, but I think it was well worth it. A sad footnote to all that is the tree looks like it is diseased. It's losing its crown. And so the committee also talked about the fact that we need a new Christmas tree, and maybe a better location for the tree will be in Bicentennial Park. So that's the plan next year, is to look to purchase a new tree for the park, a good-sized tree, not a little seedling, and place it near the gazebo, and that will be where the town Christmas tree is. And hopefully that will work. And I also wanted to say that I made a trip to the Putnam Town Board in November, to their November meeting. Fortunately, it usually coincides with our board meeting, but they met on Veterans Day. And Randy Rappel went along with me. He was at the end of the blacktop on Black Point Road. And the purpose of going there was to request their help in resolving the issue of lack of law enforcement on Black Point Road and at our beach. And they were very positive and understand the problem, but they also pointed the way that we need to start with the Washington County Sheriff's Department because ultimately they have jurisdiction over that road. So the next step is to get that conversation started, and I can say that I plan to keep it going because it was not as good as it should be at our beach this year. I don't want that to be next year. And that's basically it. And we will meet this month, the 21st.
And we have just one resolution for buildings and grounds.
Okay.
And that has to do with setting up a reserve fund for their equipment, for the groundskeepers' equipment. And this is in accordance with Section 6C of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York. We had gone through this year, like every year, keep adding to how we manage our budget, and did a evaluation of all the assets that we have across all departments. So the buildings and grounds, we're going to be allocating $71,000 into this reserve fund so that in future years they'll have the money they need for new lawnmowers and other related equipment that they would need. So I'll move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
Should we talk about
Is that just parks? We did that.
This one,
I think it's mostly Grant Spalding's group, that's what we're talking about here. Do we need to talk about the fact that Dave and I had a conversation the other day, he also had a conversation with Grant.
We're gonna wait till, I talked to Tanya about it, we're
Okay,
gonna
we
wait
can wait,
till
okay,
the end of the meeting about
Okay.
taking woods on
oh, okay.
okay.
some amendments for that.
Because at this point, there's been a pickup that's planned to be ordered for Grant, but if we have the same luck that the police department has had in trying to get their new police vehicle, it may take a whole year to
Right.
get a new vehicle for him, so we're looking at another way around. He has a very rusty dump truck, and he also has leftover parts from two departments. He had the front end of his pickup is from the water department, and the back end is from the highway department. I call it his hybrid, because it really is. But it's, Sal fortunately has worked really hard on it, it's running pretty well right now, so we'll see what happens next year.
Okay. We'll jump into highway, there's a number of resolutions. I know there was a meeting, but there's a number of resolutions and one discussion item. Do you want me to take these, Tom?
I think you want to do the resolution, sure.
Yeah, so we have a resolution to announce and publish the annual snowplow and parking restriction notice for the 21-22 winter season. This begins November 1st through April 1st of next year. And this is just something we do annually.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Does that go in the legal notices, is that what it's supposed to?
Yes.
I notice there's a lot of people still parked on the street, so,
If they know there isn't a storm, then they park on the street.
yeah.
The next is a resolution to approve the 284 agreement. The 284 agreement is an agreement between the town highway superintendent and the town board as to the use of CHIPS monies for repairs of roads in town. So next year, Sal has listed Lower Bull Rock Road, which should be about a 1.5 mile overlay. And he's also going to be installing a 24-inch culvert. I don't know if the board has any questions on this. This is what this is the work to be done next year. So I'll move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. We just need to sign. Tanya has a copy, so we can.
Right here.
Well, we all have a copy. Is that the original?
I don't know.
I don't know which one.
Finish out.
I don't know if you have it. I don't have it. It's upstairs in the desk.
Different color pen.
What's that?
Was it black ink?
I think so.
This looks like a
We'll
copy.
get it.
Well, that's, yeah, that's, okay.
I've got all kinds of signatures, you guys can.
You do. Okay, the next is a resolution establishing a sidewalk repair reserve fund in accordance with section 6C of the general municipal law of the state of New York. So last year, we had gone into funding monies for sidewalk replacement and sidewalk repair. We passed a resolution to create the reserve fund for the sidewalk replacement, of which the board had funded $100,000 this current year, plus we still have $100,000 from New York State Department of Transportation. And the repair, we also we wanted to establish, but this one's a little more tricky because it requires approval by not only the highway superintendent, but also the county DPW superintendent. So I think I gave you guys a copy of that agreement because I got those signatures today. Thanks to Matt for helping get that all set up so we can take care of this one. But we put $20,000 aside for repair. And I think we established, Tom, what was it, no more than two squares?
2 squares, maybe up to 10 feet, maybe, something like
Yeah.
that.
So that's what those monies will go to in the future when repairs are needed. So I'll go ahead and move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then we also have our annual 2021-2022 municipal snow and ice agreement with the county. Kevin? Is this the county? You have it, right? a resolution to approve that.
I'll move it.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then, we have a fuel dispensing system at the highway shed, and we've had some recent issues as of late, where the keys aren't working. And, we've had some conversation about this, I think at the highway meeting a while back. The issue came down to the cost for, it's beyond being able to be upgraded, is my understanding. So we really need to go out and get a
Well,
new.
it can be, there's no support with it anymore.
Yeah.
It's obsolete, it needs to be upgraded. So we can either upgrade what we have,
Or go
which
for
we've got a quote on and it's extremely a lot of money, or we can go out to bid to get a new system for it. It needs to have discussion. So usually something that's done at committee to like vet this stuff out, it kind of needs to get done sooner than later, because if we don't have keys to fill gas in our vehicles, we're a little out of luck.
Who evaluated it, said it was other, it was,
We were told 3 years ago that it was out
by who?
by the people who own that program.
Oh,
Yeah. We've gotten a quote from them for updating it. I think it's close to $14,000. Becky's been trying to do some legwork on it, look for a quote from somebody else, and maybe do a whole new system. I think that was around $7,000. That's still over our procurement policy, I believe. So we need to decide sooner than later if we have to go out and bid for it, what we're gonna do with it.
Do you want
We can't be in a lurch about it.
to, no, so, I don't know if that's,
is it defective on everybody's, or is it just?
We have maybe a handful.
Didn't you have trouble, Rich?
We've had trouble.
Didn't you have trouble?
We have,
Yes.
Yes.
we have just a handful of keys left that are working, so that's why I said we need to go sooner than later. And those keys are gonna stop at some time. It is shutting down keys on its own. We have about 20 keys that do not work at all. So we've gotta decide on what we're doing with this. I don't know if it's something, I mean, it's not really an emergency situation.
well, it's getting there.
Yeah.
It is getting there.
What do they do with, like, the 20 keys? Is it the fire department? Different?
No,
What do they do if they can't get fuel?
good question. Go to Maple Fields, I guess.
That's my math.
Yeah.
Well, we just won't go to your house and put your house out. You know what I mean?
But that 20 keys, that's
So
a
I really want to make sure
Yeah,
with
there
the
must be that
procurement
many, or
policy,
more.
because highway has a certain limit that they can spend, but this is out of the general fund, I believe. So that needs to be vetted too. I mean, this isn't something the board should be doing, and taking up the time on the board meeting to talk about. But it needs to be figured out sooner than later.
And you,
A little light there too. A light would be helpful,
Oh, like to see, yeah.
so you can see
I
the
thought there were
keypad.
lights there. Maybe they're out.
They're pretty big.
They used to be.
No, it's not. It's what down, some of it has been on a while.
These are some.
so you were suggesting either going out and upgrading the existing system?
Well, I don't know.
You got-
I'm assuming it's paid out of the general fund, it's not paid out of a highway thing, so if there is a different procurement, like for water sewer, it's up to 30,000, I don't know if there's a different for highway. When it's paid out of the general, we only have 5, we pay 10,000, we have to get 3 quotes. You know, there's a lot of talk about this, that we, you know, it's like wasting our time to do it here, but it has to be figured out. So if there's not gonna be a highway meeting, then it needs to get figured out. Like that. I mean, I don't know, and I don't know how many other places to ask, it's not my specialty to be
Yeah,
doing
no,
a
I'm
fuel
not,
farm.
I haven't been very familiar with this stuff.
I was in on it, I have the original bid that was put out for it, that was put out for the entire thing. I have a quote from somebody on just updating the program. I can put all that in all your boxes. I don't know what to do with it, but it needs to be done.
Yeah.
It needs to be done, something needs to be done.
If we go out to bid, do we have the specs that we're looking for somebody to bid on?
No,
Or do we need to, so we would need to first
That's what
come
I
up with
have-
a set of specs on what we need to.
I think we need to use a phone call and figure out exactly what we need.
I have the original bid that went out, but the bid was for the entire project, not just the system. So somebody can probably pull it out of, I have not taken the time because I've been too busy to get into a fueling system. But somebody can probably look at that and pull something out of it, I don't know. Whoever wants to do that, that's not really the job of the, anyways. to get this figured out.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents. Get it figured out. And see what our spending limit is. How many quotes we have to get.
Okay. I have nothing else on highway. You passed out some, Dave, you passed out something that Sal is
Yeah, so did you tell them last month?
last month.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything both sides?
Yeah.
Okay.
He had a lot of repairs. Trucks, plows, sanders, blades. He painted all of the 550s under coating.
Good. You want to put that in with the minutes then? or-
Yeah.
Okay. You have a copy, don't you?
No, I didn't, just,
You might want to put on there, this is November? Okay. All right, if nothing else with highway, then I don't have anything for municipal facility, eval. Is there any, there was no meeting?
Just that AES is working on the proposal that they submitted to us. They're working on it, doing those evaluations, and we'll have something from them that we can report on toward the end of this month, or at our next meeting.
Okay, we'll move on to airport. The airport committee met yesterday, the 8th, and we met with the airport consulting engineering firm. There were quite a few people present, and mostly it was an opportunity to have them come in and report to the committee, but as well as have Mark brought up to speed with where we're at with projects at the airport. It was a good meeting. It was about an hour and a half. Currently, we're doing a pavement management project and getting ready for apron reconstruction and rehabilitation next year. Both of those are currently in the design phases. One of the other things we had done this year, because for those who may not know, the airport is mostly funded through the federal government, about 90% for eligible projects that the FAA deems to be improvements to the capital improvements to the airport, with a local share of 5% from the state and 5% from the municipality. And so we also set up a reserve account for airport development, so that there is money available as these projects continue to move forward. There's been a lot of hard work from the committee, mostly comprised of volunteers, assisting with everything from the fuel farm to the, seems like the frequently breaking down gate, to just
Ash,
making.
give you an update on that.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of that.
And he called me yesterday, like Cody did, it's gonna be at least maybe 2 weeks before they get the parts.
Okay. To lights and everything else, so, you know, the airport is really picked up over the last several years, and hopefully it'll continue to go that way, because it certainly is an untapped resource for additional economic development related opportunities. So most of the meeting discussed that, and we had just a little bit at the end. We had received another shipment of fuel, so our tank is topped off for the end of the year, to begin our season next year. And we were fortunate enough, through COVID, our airport had received several installments of COVID relief funds that went toward various aspects of the airport, as well as a lot of the projects didn't require a local share. It was all covered from the federal government funding. So a lot of good things coming from them. Hopefully it'll continue. One of the biggest things is we're working towards getting some hangars installed, nested T hangars, so that we can maintain our 10-based aircraft, because without maintaining the 10-based aircraft, we won't be eligible for funding in future years. So with that, I have just one resolution. That is to establish an airport development reserve fund in accordance with Section 6I of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And we'll move on to public safety. We have a number of resolutions, but I don't know if you want to go over your minutes first, or...
Whatever you want to do. We met on the 30th. the following members, myself, Dave Burrows, Rihanna Peters, Chief Albert, and Jen Gainer. Guests were Matt Ford, Mark Wright, and Aaron Bush. There's no public participation. Chief Albert went over his monthly report, and Rihanna and Dave went over their monthly report. And the Thai PD had, they had a big call by last month, 539 calls. 44 incident reports, 19 arrests, 58 uniform traffic tickets, 1 DWI, 12 accidents investigated. Excuse me, the speed trailer is currently on River Road. The police department participated in the second annual Stuff a Cruiser event on 11/27/21. Toys, clothing, and non-perishable food items were collected at the event and will be distributed to families in need throughout Essex County. The police department and the Elderwood Elizabethtown Community Hospital's Ticonderoga campus community-based emergency preparedness exercise was held on 11/16/2021. Patrol vehicle 7B378 is currently at Christopher's Body Shop and being repaired. The annual parade of lights has already happened, which you know. Dave Burrows, they had issued 2 building permits, 2 safety inspections. They had 1 order to remedy, and that has been remediated. They had a complaint on Racetrack Road again, and that's been resolved. And the mowing rubbish and okay, and that's been remediated also. So, and we're going to meet again December 28th at 8 o'clock.
Okay, we got just a couple resolutions. Resolution authorized the supervisor to enter into the 2022 dangerous dog agreement with the North Country SPCA. Thank you to Tanya for helping to facilitate that contract. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then we have a subsequent contract with the SPCA as well for authorization of the supervisor to enter into the 2022 annual shelter agreement.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to authorize the certificate of amendment of the certificate of incorporation of the Chilson Volunteer Fire Company Incorporated.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And we then have the resolution to approve the 2022 Chilson Volunteer Fire Company annual contract. I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then the resolution for the 21 Thai EMS contract, we'll postpone that until the end of the month.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Jim. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
One thing I forgot to,
Yeah.
it won't happen, Adam's gonna meet with, I talked to Katie, the vet, when I was up there,
Oh.
Ash's wife,
Yeah,
and, because, you know, it's been an issue with Adam's dogs that he's picking up, running them away to Westport, and then he puts them on social media, and 75% of the time the dogs are found, and the owners come and get them. But there's no place to keep them, so I talked to her, and she said she would keep them. Like, it only happens maybe 2-3 times a year, in overnight.
Okay.
If nobody claims the dog overnight, then Adam will take it to Westport.
Okay.
So the PD and I volunteered, I told them they didn't have to, on weekends they go away. So we volunteered to walk the dogs.
But we have to get into a contract with them.
I know, they're gonna, right now, the kennel is full, they're doing their house over, and they got everything in the kennel. And she said, once that's out, she will contact us and we can come up with whatever we need to do.
To be discussed.
To be discussed. I mean, we've taken 1 dog to Westport this year, but we need to discuss it because that's more money that's going to be coming out for contracts. And who's going to work
I don't
with
even-
the contract? I mean,
I don't even know she charges if we're gonna do it and take care of it. I don't know, but Adam's gonna talk to her the first year.
That would probably be similar to the Dr. Mack contract we had a while back. No, I don't know, we can discuss it.
That was a very broad contract.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's good information, we'll
Yeah.
just have to figure out what it is. Human Services, with youth, I don't know if you have.
Well, I do have something good. I believe there's, has been 6 applications for an
Yes.
after-school program, and the interviews will take place after Christmas, and I'm very thankful that we finally got some applications.
We had 37, I think, sign up for the ski program, Tanya, is that right?
First time working on it.
More than that, okay, so that's good, and we're working with the, with Core to get those finished up. I think the season begins on the 8th. So the second Saturday in January. So those are 2 good things that are coming about, the beginning of the after-school program sometime in the new year,
Hopefully,
and the ski program, so
and hopefully something in Silver Bay for teens too.
that's right, yes.
And I have to say the armory is very busy. Sean is doing a great job of keeping it filled. There seems to be a group in there all the time, and I think basketball is taking place, and I think other groups are also using it.
Good.
Who handles the use of facility? Does Sean take care of all of that? He does all the scheduling and everything. So
He's doing the scheduling
yeah.
right now, so we know what's gonna happen at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a little different setup than the other companies. Okay. Yes.
Good.
I'm really impressed that he's done all the repairs on equipment. He's
Oh,
instead of
he's
taking
done-
it to the dump, he's got it working again, and that's really great.
We talked about that a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah, he's very handy, so his dad works for the town, so they fixed that one foosball table, I believe, and, yeah, so
Several pieces
Yeah.
that cost a lot of money to replace, so.
we had multiple board games, I think he went through and picked out the pieces that were missing from one, got one, so.
It's like just hope the father and son don't have a disagreement.
Yeah. No, Sean's a very amenable guy,
Oh, yeah.
he's gonna do well with that program. Nothing from the seniors, Tom, they haven't had any meetings,
Right.
yeah.
They're doing it in private.
I think they've gone to dinner once, I think. Dinner get together.
I don't have anything for health insurance. The contract negotiations, they're up, all the unions are up next year, so those will be, the board will be entering into those discussions. The only thing that we have outstanding is the MOA on, I think it is on Juneteenth, the holiday, so we're trying to get that squared away before the end of the year. We offered it for, we gave it to everyone this year, and next year it needs to be negotiated. IT, cable TV, the last remaining pieces we're trying to square away on that is just getting the server connected to all the different computers. And I was trying to see, Matt, if there's a way to get you access to some of the shared files for like public works and so forth. I don't know how that transpired, but I know that's rather than all kind of email stuff through. So.
Before we do the resolutions, I should have said this one in doing my report. Part of my responsibilities with Parks and Rec is it also includes the library.
Yes.
So I do attend the library board meetings when I can. Sometimes there's a scheduling conflict. But I have to say, I personally am very impressed with the programs that go on in our library, the variety, and the amount of use that library is getting is just phenomenal. So I'm just very happy that we have that organization, that board working in our community because they're doing a good job. And Heather is doing an outstanding job as the librarian.
Couldn't agree more. Okay. So we'll move on to regular resolutions. The first is a
You have
resolution.
one cable.
Huh?
You have one cable
Oh, yes, thank you.
thing.
You want to read it?
We're on December 31st, Bulldog Shopping Network. I wonder if that's for dogs. On Spectrum channels 166, 472, 496, and 853 will revamp to Victory Channel on the channel lineup. On or around January 1st, 2022, NBC Sports Network will cease operation of its service and Spectrum will discontinue carriage of NBCSN on channels 30, 44, 49, 69, 81, 314, 317, 726. Oh, wait, that's a little one. brand to Magnolia. That's it. Always changes the spectrum.
We used to have an outstanding contract, I guess, so finish up with them. Franchise agreement. I don't think we finished that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was, well, Pete, we were talking about it because it has to do with that additional ITV, Channel 17, which is now something else. There's some confusion about the loop. There's two loops. There's the Abercrombie tank and the high school. Anyway, we're going to finish that one. Okay. Resolution, did I do correct minutes?
No.
That's right. Accept and correct the minutes of the regular town board meeting November 3rd and the finance meeting on November 10th. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. I have a typo here, but this should read the resolution to appeal and adopt the senior citizen tax exemption, not exception, but exemption.
To schedule a public hearing.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, we need to,
Sorry.
Matt has drafted numbers.
So schedule a public hearing on January.
I'm assuming we have to repeal, yeah. So we have to set a public hearing to repeal our current one, and then we need to set a public hearing to adopt the new one. And they both be on the same. But they probably should be two separate resolutions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, is this an annual thing, or is this?
No.
Should not be?
It should not be. So your first resolution is to appeal the current senior citizen tax exemption law that is on our books.
To
We're
repeal,
assuming
you said.
January 3rd. Huh?
To repeal.
Okay.
Well, when you talked in the office, you said upheal, I wasn't, you mean repeal?
Well, I said repeal, but
Okay.
you didn't. Yeah, maybe I said it.
I'm not gonna challenge you, Tanya. Not worth it.
Good choice.
To repeal the senior citizen tax exemption, and then the second one will be to adopt,
So that's on January 13th at 6 o'clock. You said the 13th was
yeah, Thursday.
at 6. So that's your first one you need to move.
I'll
To
move it.
repeal it.
Yep, I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
And as long as we can, well, it's already done, then you're gonna adopt a new local law for a senior citizen tax exemption at January 13th at 6 o'clock. You ready for that, Mark? I'm sorry, first, go.
I did. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Public hearing notices and everything. You know, public hearing notices.
No.
I have one, and where?
That's on,
Are you repealing the local law?
Yeah, you're repealing your
It's
existing.
local,
because
yeah.
there's one on the books, you can have to
No, I
repeal that
should-
first
Yeah.
before we can adopt the new one.
Appeal the,
You're doing that now. Wait for your pen.
I'm done.
Go.
It was right there, you cut and pasted it, it's right there, so, because you're not gonna.
okay. Are we good with that? So we got a bunch of end of the year budget transfers and budget adjustments from different departments. I don't know, do you want me to go through these, or do you want to? Don't everyone jump at once.
Can everybody read them out loud?
Resolution authorizing the following budget transfers. A lot of these are, some of these are contingencies, some of these are moving from one line item in a particular fund to another one just because of the way in which things got spent.
At the end of the year, you always get a lot of these covered.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution authorizing the following budget adjustments. I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution authorizing the following interfund loans. Again, this is normal stuff until money's received, so I'll move that one. All in favor? Carried. And we have a couple of resolutions to amend prior resolutions where the account codes were not correct, so they've been corrected on here. Resolution to amend Resolution 356 of this year to correct account codes used. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to amend Resolution 352 this year to correct account code typos.
I'll move it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And resolution to amend Resolution 353 of this year to correct account code typos.
I'll move it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to pay the abstract.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to accept the supervisor's report as submitted.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. This next one is a resolution in opposition to Governor Hochul's proposed closure of the Mariah Shock Incarceration Facility located in Mariah, New York. County recently put out a resolution, and a lot of the towns are doing the same thing. This facility is one of two facilities in New York State providing treatment programs for substance and alcohol abuse above and beyond general incarceration. It's certainly an economic engine for the community because it provides 107 good-paying state jobs to residents of Essex County. As we're all well aware, Mariah Shock works in all of our communities, supporting our municipalities, as well as the Department of Environmental Conservation and various manual labor support. And through Mariah Shock, it's been demonstrated that there are lower recidivism rates, 31% annually, compared to 65% in New York prisons after 3 years, as well as lower costs per inmate, roughly $20,000 less. So just about every municipality that I'm aware of in Essex County and even others are putting forward the opposition of that proposed closure. Dan Steck spoke about it at the Adirondack Associations of Towns, and obviously it's not the kind of opposition of fighting back, but basically asking the governor to kind of reconsider closing this one because of all the benefits that it brings the community for the work that they do there. So I'll move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Do you have a draft or something?
I do. I'll get to that. Resolution to cancel the monthly financial meeting on December 23rd of this year. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. And resolution to schedule the end of the year meeting. We're proposing the 30th of this year because the 31st is a Friday, but it's the paid holiday because the 1st is on a Saturday. So we're suggesting we do it on the 30th.
What time?
Probably not first thing in the morning because I know that we're going to be having a public hearing, so maybe.
You're having public hearings at your end of the year meeting?
Yeah, we left them open. The ones, because we have to have one for the Thai EMS.
Yeah, but they would be at the regular, they would be held at the regular town board meeting because you didn't specify the date. When you
Okay.
leave it open, it continues to your next.
Regular board meeting.
So if you're late.
Yeah.
Well, no, it can't be, because if we don't pass it by then it would go into
Right.
2022, so we would need to can we pass a resolution to set it further how do we go back? We go back in time and,
On that, you're here.
yeah, we want to have that particular public hearing at the end of the month so we can make payment. We just have to get the contract settled. We know the amount, we just need to get the contract settled. The terms. That was the one item that we just overlooked because it was 2 years old. So we can do just amend that resolution now to leave it open until the end of the year meeting. Just
Well,
that,
I mean, you didn't pass a resolution so you can.
Pass a
do
resolution.
You're not amending it because you didn't do a resolution to leave it open. So you can do a resolution continue your public hearing until the end of the year meeting on December 30th.
Okay.
Well, let's schedule your meeting first.
Okay.
Do we want it on the 30th? Is that good with everybody?
Works for me.
It's okay.
What time of day?
Not tonight. That's,
I mean, your end of the year
it's
meeting.
Shirley's birthday, I gotta take her out.
Do something. Better.
Wait a second, can you use that excuse? Is it really working?
It's a 5-month leave.
Your end of the year meeting is usually a very brief meeting. I don't even know how long the public hearing this is gonna have. Usually you just tie up all your financial stuff and close out your year.
Other than-
You're so hopeful.
I am hopeful. Because I got a lot to do.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have your contract all set and ready, and you're gonna go
That's it,
for your
yeah.
public hearing and.
You guys 9 o'clock, okay?
Fine, yeah, the morning's fine, yeah.
9 o'clock?
Bring
So the 30th at 9 o'clock.
Hot dog stands don't open until later anyway.
You are digging a hole.
All right, so resolution to schedule another review meeting on December 30th at 9 a.m. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then you said a resolution to schedule the continue. How did you phrase it? Sorry, man.
To continue the public hearing at your, whatever.
For the 2021 Thai EMS contract on 12/30 at 9 o'clock. And then we have a close up.
Thank you.
I just spoke up about that. But your 2022 one is continued in January.
That one was let go. Yeah.
Yes.
That was an issue. I think that's gonna take, some more discussions, I know we're talking with Renee, so. Okay, I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. So I have, next resolution is to enter into an executive session regarding the proposed acquisition of real property. Invite Mark Bright to participate in that. And I'll come back. You want to move it?
I did.
Second.
All in favor?